The lesson.
Oh, yeah.
Prime, thanks very much for rolling through.
Not a problem.
Now, you've actually just gotten back from overseas not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So where were you? You were in Malaysia?
Correct. I was in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur for a year. And I've been back for probably about 3 months now. So, yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about what you were doing over there?
The reason I went over there in the first place is to study. I basically went to uni a few years ago at the age of 27. That was like my first experience of uni, and did pretty well and won a scholarship to go overseas. Anywhere in Asia I could go, so I chose Malaysia, and ended up transitioning into work there. Now I'm still working for the organization I was working for in Malaysia, but from here. So it's been good.
Do you think you're going back?
I don't know at the moment. I've still got to complete my degrees, which is pretty close. And then after that, we'll see. It's possible, but it's not locked in.
Now, I've noticed that lately, if you've done any podcasts or interviews or anything like that,
Yeah.
you've been introducing yourself as the artist formerly known as Prime.
Yeah.
So I guess tell us a bit about that.
It's sort of a joke, but it's also because I've kind of done. I think I'm done with music, or done with trying to make money out of music, trying to like be a rapper as a job or as a, you know what I mean, like really hustle it. I might still dabble if I feel like it. I might still do things from time to time if I feel like it, but it's not going to be a big part of my life, at least in the short term, like it was, because I've got so much other stuff that I'm doing right now that I'm real busy. That if I kept going at it like I was doing it before, I wouldn't be doing it properly. And I did it for like 10 years. I really went pretty hard at it for 10 years in various ways. And I think now and I've got good opportunities elsewhere now that I've like kind of created for myself. So I'm willing to give it 100% to those opportunities now, and just be an outsider in music, but still, be part of the scene and stuff, but not an active participant, as they say.
Yeah, not as heavily entrenched.
Yeah, so it's not my life anymore,
So I guess considering that, we may not get any more Prime music in the future, let's walk, I guess, front to back from when you started.
Mm-hmm.
You were first on my radar, I'm pretty sure, those wrap-ups that you used to do.
Yeah.
That were obviously inspired by Mad Skills, and I think that was the MySpace days.
It was, yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly what year. I've got a memory of it was either 06 or 07 that I heard. And I was like heavily listening to Mad Skills at the time. And so I could totally hear what you were doing. And I was like, wow, that's fucking ill. And I think you would have been young.
Yeah. So I only did 2 of them. The first one I did was 07. And my idea was with that, because I'm a huge fan of the Skills wrap-ups. And even to this year, I guess, to this year, I still, like, if it's that time of the year, I'm actively looking for that wrap-up, because it's like, it's part of that time of the year now. Like, I'm always interested in that. But I always felt like a lot of the references, it's a little bit different now because we're more aware of what's going on because of the internet everywhere in the world, especially in America, if you're into like hip hop culture and that sort of thing. But in like those sort of mid 2000s, there was a lot of references that I didn't really understand fully because it was based on like American culture. So it might be sport, it might be like TV. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if someone did something like that, but it was more based on Australia, like things that happened here in our year, whether it's sport or TV or whatever. So that was the initial idea. And that's what I did in 07. I was 20 at the time. And I did another one in 08. And that was the last of it, because I didn't want to become someone that did the wrap up every year. It was just a little bit of fun. And the first one was really well received. So I kind of did 08 because people asked for it. But yeah, it was fun. Like I enjoyed doing that. And I enjoyed the process of looking back at the year and thinking, okay, what is worthy of being included in this wrap up? And it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, man, they were dope. They were real good. So was that they were put up on MySpace from memory? So was that the first recorded music that you had?
Nah, but it wasn't that far off. Actually, 07, yeah, so I'll explain it like this. In 06, was the first time I started battling. So I was still 18 at that time when I was first entering battles. I turned 19 during that year. And then I put out a song in about September, October. That was just on the internet. That was the first thing I ever released. It's called My Fault. People might have heard that. And then that's when I started to get involved with Pagan Ellipsis, and we actually dropped a mixtape that year.
The 007 mixtape.
2007, yeah. So that would have been the year I did the first wrap up. And by that time, I was dropping stuff pretty regularly as Prime as well. So, yeah, probably would have had solo-wise, probably, I don't know, 7, 8 songs out, plus the group stuff. So
this was all happening around the time that you guys formed Pagan Ellipsis?
Yeah. So we probably fully formed Pagan Ellipsis in maybe 06. And then we dropped that mixtape in 07, which pretty much coincided with me and Purpose doing the WRCs. And that was kind of the idea, we could use this spotlight to get the music listened to. So,
and then so obviously you've done the WRCs.
Yep.
You guys put out that release, and it was the one and only release under Pagan Ellipsis, wasn't it?
No. We did one album only.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That was 2010.
But you had mixtapes prior to that.
We had 2 or 3 mixtapes prior to that. Yeah.
And then so after the Pagan Ellipsis album, that was the first official album, but the last one as well.
Yeah, because the thing about Pagan Ellipsis is, okay, it's 5. It was 6, ended up being 5 MCs on that album, right? And at some point or another, all of us had ambitions to be solo artists. Some of us ended up following through. The Pagan Ellipsis album was the kind of the extent of their release, their discography, I guess. But for me, and I think Purpose as well, when you talk to him, he can say whatever. But for me, giving all that time to Pagan Ellipsis was by the time that was finished, I was like, okay, I just want to do Prime stuff now, because I've already not done any Prime stuff in that whole time because we were getting all this done. So I think definitely after that album, we were always going to break because we had me and Purpose had solo stuff to do. And yeah, whether we end up getting back and doing more was kind of, we'll do it later. But then time makes things change, and by the time your solo stuff is out of the way, maybe not everyone is still wants to do that or still can do that or whatever. So yeah, it wasn't we'll do one album and stop. That wasn't the plan or anything, but it's just kind of how it worked out. So,
and then so when you look at groups,
yeah,
a lot of the time, that's what happens. They end up doing their solo thing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll reunite for a second or third.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, in Australian hip hop, right, it's pretty rare that you have established artists already that go, oh, let's be a group now. It's usually people you're friends with when you're a teenager who you come up with. That's your group. That's usually how it works. That's how it was for us. We were a group because we were knew each other from young. It's not we were oh, let's get together and form a group now that we're all doing things. But it wasn't really like that. It was, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what was the question again?
Well, what I was going to say was, so when you look at groups and often they end up going solo.
Yeah.
Is there particular things that make it really difficult to continue working together as a group?
I can only speak from my experience. But there were songs that I wanted to make for my solo stuff, which I think wouldn't have fit on a Pagan Ellipsis album. like, even though we all had like little solo tracks, I think on the album I had a solo track that was a little bit different to like the rest of the vibe. But when you're a 120% part of a group in terms of the MCs, you don't really have that much time to put your stamp on things, especially in an album like that, which is very like bar heavy and like kind of up tempo. Well, not up tempo, but like I don't want to say aggressive, but it was like kind of
hard hitting.
It was that hip hop kind of approach, that kind of posse approach to a hip hop record, and there's not that much room to like get across who you are as a person or that sort of thing like that. And that was always the thing that I wanted to do with my solo albums. I wanted to, like, if my kids or whatever heard it like 30 years later, they would have a perception of who I was at that time. You know what I mean? But when you're in a group, you don't really have that much room to move like that. So I always had ambitions to like do something differently and be more like based on me as a solo artist. So that's just my perception. There are some groups where people go solo and it's like they're pretty much exactly the same as they were on the group stuff, and that sometimes is fine. That sometimes works, but in my case, I wanted to do different types of things, and some things fit with one and not with the other. So,
and you guys all met through Poeticate,
pretty much, yeah. Motive and Purpose are cousins. Poeticate went to the same high school as K-Dog and Motive, right? So they were already, I think they were all in different years in that, but they're like hip hop people, so they're like, you know how it is, they connected together. And then Purpose came along because of his like family with Motive, and then I met Poeticate just like around shows and stuff, like underage shows, and he kind of introduced me to the others, and then that's how that happened. So,
and then particularly, I guess, in that crew, you know, yourself, Purpose, Motive, Poeticate, all actively battling at one stage.
Yep. And K-Dog battled too. Everyone.
He was battling as well.
Well, he not when I was, but he was battling before that. Everybody in the crew battled at some point.
So basically, you guys are a crew that came up through the influence of battling and bars.
I just think that it's more like that was the easiest way to get out there. I don't think I ever went into it like, oh, my ambition is to battle people. It was just like this is the dawn of the internet, right? So it's not like you can just do it now. You can just like put something out there and it's there. It's not dawn of the internet in terms of like internet existing, but the dawn of like people using it to like break music. So yeah, for me, battling was just like the most logical, easy way to make people know that I exist and like what I can do as a MC. I think it was the same for the others. It wasn't like battling was like the goal. It was more like the college on the way to the NBA sort of thing. In those days, that was the most efficient way to like become known and, you know, so to make people actually want to hear your music and that sort of thing. So,
and you guys did pretty well just in the battle realm.
Yeah, we did pretty well. Yeah. It was a good time. It was like it was a thriving scene at that time. There's a lot of people involved, a lot of people participating, watching. People were interested. People would pay money to go watch it. That's why it was so effective as an artist that no one knew existed. You can go from no one knowing you exist, and then like maybe a few months later, everyone in that scene does. And that's like, that was the first step on the way. So.
The lesson.